Hey guys, it's me, Auntie Tatiana. You can follow me on TikTok at Auntie Tatiana 2. So today I'm going to be discussing this book, The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls, and talking about some of the beings that he mentioned in that book. So for all of this to actually make sense, I'm going to have to start with explaining to you what the Great Dome is. The Great Dome is basically the dome that encloses all of the lands inside of it. There are 178 worlds, aka 178 domes. Each one of the circles you see is a dome. The Great Dome covers all 178 domes, worlds, whatever you want to call them. The 178 worlds, that does not include all of the islands and lands outside of, those domes. So this Great Dome is also known as the end of the known, because nobody knows what lies beyond the Great Dome. It's an unknown zone, okay? People can only assume that our Creator lies beyond the Great Dome. Each of these 178 worlds have their own climate, have their own weather, have their own civilizations. These domes are not easy to penetrate, okay? It is not an easy task. The colonizing races, however, have perfected this technique, and they are able to penetrate these domes. Now, the independent lands that I was telling you about, the lands that don't have a dome, these lands are able to be explored amongst the other races. They have knowledge of these other lands. Unfortunately, here on Earth, we do not, because of all the brainwashing going on right now. But if we were aware of these other lands, these lands that don't have domes, we would be able to walk up on it, These domes are impossible to cross via air. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys that we have not been to space. There is no outer space. They can't go past the dome. The most common way to travel to the other worlds is through the water. There are open passages in the water that connects the worlds. It's like two membranes in any cell. There are many portals that have been found in several of the worlds, but these portals have been manipulated so much by the custodians that they have become unstable. And that's why beings disappear when they enter them. No one knows where the portal took them or if they disintegrated. The colonizing races, however, have perfected this technique, and they are able to penetrate these domes. So first of all, we got the custodians. When you look up custodian on the internet, the definition of custodian is somebody who is responsible for or supposed to be looking after something. So these custodians are supposed to be looking after us. Why do we need looking after? I thought we had free will. We really don't. So the custodians have many names. They've been called the Watchers, the Corrupt Brotherhood, the Caretakers. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to call them the custodians. So the book didn't really give a description of the appearance of the custodians. So for this video purpose, I'm going to be using this picture to depict the custodians. These are the motherfuckers from the movie Prometheus. So the custodians, okay, they deprived us of our true history. I don't know if you guys have heard of Tartaria, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. You should look into that. That's some hidden history for you. The custodians manipulated us and convinced us that this new history that they're teaching is facts. And they have people actually out here defending this history that they taught us. The custodians are the beings that manage and have control over all the lands. The custodians based all of their technology on weapons of destruction, weapons of defense, weapons of attack. They was pretty much colonizers from birth. They were very hostile towards humans since the beginning of time. They used all of their potential on discovery, colonization, and exploitation of all the lands and beings they found. All the other races that came about at the same time as the custodians were in their infancy, trying to survive. For example, the Martians. Their story is very, very sad. The custodians were the first to leave their world, meaning they were the first to break out of their dome, their firmament, whatever you want to call it. They are carnivores. Do they eat human flesh? We're going to answer that one later, okay? Just bear with me. Even though they are carnivores, though, they taught humans agriculture. They did this because after a reset is when they annihilate the population, leaving nothing but the babies so that they could brainwash them and teach them stuff that they want them to do to benefit them. They taught humans agriculture in order for them to increase the population faster. So the custodians, they receive pleasure from watching us humans go through fear and sadness and all this negative energy that they absorb. It's kind of like this Star Trek episode that I saw one time, and I'm going to show you guys because this is like the perfect example of them feeding off of this energy.
What's the real reason you want me in that matrix? Somehow I don't think it has anything to do with everlasting joy.
You must go with me.
If you could force me to go, you'd have done it.
You're in a dangerous profession, Captain. You face death every day. There'll be another time, and I'll be waiting. Eventually, you'll come into my matrix. And you will nourish me for a long, long time.
Go back to hell, coward.
And then there's the Anunnaki, like I talked about in the first video. I specifically stated in the first video that we did not come from the Anunnaki. They are not our creators. They are not our gods. They fear the creator themselves. Now, the Anunnaki are the creators of something. They're the creators of the pyramids. They build these structures in every world they penetrate. The Anunnaki's utilization of portals led to them being one step ahead of all the other races. They are the strongest race within the Great Dome. I beg to argue they're stronger than the Custodians. They lack empathy and they're based solely on the oppression of other beings. Now, the Anunnaki are very, very similar to the Custodians, hence why they decided to share that position instead of kill each other. They actually are working together, the Anunnaki and the Custodians. They are bound by a treaty. They're pretty much like, can't beat them, join them. So the Anunnaki and the Custodians decided to join forces because they had something in common. All of their technology was based on military development. So the Custodians and Anunnaki were studying human beings since the beginning of time, okay? They were trying to figure out how to manipulate the energy that left our bodies when we died. How did they do this? They colonized us. So when the Anunnaki and Custodians arrived to a new dome, they look for ways to penetrate it to see if they can benefit, study the life found there, and if it serves them, potentially own that dome. And that's what the fuck happened here on Earth. They fucking own us. However, tension is always expected between those two. There was even conflict between them at one point in time, and that conflict had them distracted, in which led to the giants being able to infiltrate the known lands. The Anunnaki and the Custodians have been depicted in many forms throughout ancient human history. They've been depicted as having humanoid bodies with different animal heads. But know this, all of those depictions are there to confuse the true history for humans. So I know a lot of people like to think yin yang, good, bad, you know, yada, yada, yada. There are good and bad in all beings. So it's not, I guess, fair to say that an entire race of beings is evil. But it's kind of like, let's go to slavery times. Not every white person was evil, right? But for the most part, majority of them were on that fuck shit. So that's what I'm trying to say here. Majority of the Custodians is on that fuck shit. Majority of the Anunnaki were on that fuck shit. It is not possible to cross the Great Dome. The Custodians and the Anunnaki have already tried. They have tried to cross it and they have failed. They don't know what's out there. But they are terrified of what's out there because they fear that a superior colonizing race will come and take away from them all that they have pretty much took from everyone else. So these resets that I was mentioning earlier, after they annihilated the population, leaving nothing but the babies, next came the education necessary to give the newly colonized purpose and function that the Anunnaki and Custodians desired. So each reset, the security becomes stronger. Human standard of living becomes less and less free. These resets that they conducted led to the sacrifices of many humans. The Anunnaki and Custodians were trying to see if they could manipulate this great energy at will. So whether it be diseases, shortening our lifespan, catastrophes, they tried it, but it didn't work. They could not figure out how to manipulate this energy that we got inside of us. Each reset is worse, stricter, and has greater manipulation. The Custodians would prefer to carry out another reset before knowing that a single human could possibly escape the dome. There was a point in time when humans used to live longer. We used to have longer lives. The Custodians and Anunnaki could not have that, because the more time that humans had to live, the more time they had to analyze the situation in which they found themselves. Their third eye was waking up and people were like, what the fuck? This is bullshit, okay? So they cut down our lifespan by poisoning the air in which we breathe. We're eating all these toxins, we're breathing in all these toxins. This was all done purposefully in order for our lifespans to be shorter. They're aging us. They're like, we are not supposed to be aging at the rate at which we are aging. So like I said, all these resets were happening to prevent people from escaping. Once things got to a point where people were becoming too much awake, too much aware of what the fuck was going on, boom, a reset. Humans did escape one of the resets during the Great War. The Great War was basically the union of giants and humans. That's when the giants infiltrated our lands. The known lands are what we know as Earth. The giants infiltrated our lands, and they actually reproduced with some of the humans. Not only that, but they gave some of the humans forbidden knowledge, aka knowledge about the 178 worlds. But the giants and humans working together really shook the Custodians and Anunnaki's power. It is said that the giant humans, now these are different from the giants, different from the humans, but the offspring of the giants and humans, they're called the giant humans. It is said that one of the giant humans is responsible for the death of one of the custodian leaders. Now, for those of you that don't want to believe that giant humans are real, or that giant humans don't exist or never existed, they did. There's plenty of proof in history that can point to giants being in our realm. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the proof. Da-da-ba-ba-da. Da-da-ba-da-ba-da. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, that's proof. And for those of you that don't know, these giant humans were referred to as the Nephilim in the book of Enoch. So this is not just some shit I'm making up. These beings were actually real.